the seat of honor. Brought to you by Densmore Oil and Bugbee Plumbing.
Are you there?
He's up late to give you the news you can't get anywhere else early. He fights for truth and justice and the American way. Please welcome our pal from the Paragon Trust Company, the real Tony D. Tony D'Angelo.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so every Tuesday, man, we are just treated with with one of the best, I would say, investigative broadcasters and most eloquent speaking folks that actually is out there today in the media. We're lucky to have him. That's Tony D'Angelo. You can follow him on Twitter, Tony D'Angelo7, of course. Every Thursday, he unleashes a video at you on YouTube. You got to find that as well. Tony, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Lee Elci. Good morning, everybody. I'm proud to be among you once again.
All right, we're going to start on the college campuses, correct?
Well, yeah, and if you turned on your television this morning, you saw what was happening at Columbia, and it would strain credulity of any sort to think that this isn't going to start happening. And, you know, any college campus that you see, including our esteemed University of Connecticut. And yesterday you and I had spoken, and we are making a reach-out offer to any Jewish student at the University of Connecticut. I picked the University of Connecticut because that is the one closest to me. We know Jewish students over there are facing persecution. You know, having somebody walk on the campus and say, hey, you know, death to Israel, you know, what does that mean about me? This offer is, this stands. This is something I believe we need to do because, you know, our state bought and paid for media, and no one really, quote unquote, in the system is really even acknowledging that there is a problem. I mean, you know, the unaccountable, King Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable, last week said that, I think this is just a peaceful protest and something that people believe in, you know. Meanwhile, as he takes out his axe. But something's wrong in America when you have students of any sect, of any religion, who feel threatened for who they are. And, you know, we're not getting the full story. And as you know, last week we left off, I've been yelling and screaming at our, you know, largely, predominantly cowardly state legislature to do something. You know, cut off funding, make a statement, do something meaningful for once. And, you know, the light is going on in our United States Congress. There's a bill which was being debated yesterday. I believe it's getting out of committee, H.R. 6090, the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act of 2023. And it uses the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism. And, of course, you know, the biggest person, no pun intended, or perhaps pun intended, against this is Jerry Nadler. And it's just, but there's a lot of Jewish Democrats that are saying, hey, man, you got to do something. So here I am. If you're out there, and if you want to tell your story, please call the station. You know, fortresstrust@AOL.com is my email. Message me on Twitter. And, you know, it's like, finally, I think sanity is beginning to seep in. You know, we can't deny that there is a problem. We can't have an America where any student feels unsafe, regardless of who you are. And, you know, it's like you have this, I don't know what you want to call it. It's like a brain cancer or a paranoia or something, a reverse paranoia. Oh, these things don't happen in Connecticut. Oh, we're different than everybody else. I mean, you know, God help us all. This is not the case. And the way you do this is that you say, we're going to stop this funding. We're going to shut this thing down. We're going to stop the spigot to you. We're no longer going to confirm you in your error. And I mean, because you cannot have human rights abuses anywhere on any campus, you know, including but not limited to our lovely state of Connecticut. Your ball, my friend.
It would take guts, and it would take, pardon my French, everyone, balls for someone to stand up.
B-A-L-L-S.
You know,
yes, exactly.
They don't have it because they don't want to upset the block of voters that may feel a little bit sympathetic towards whatever cause they believe these kids are standing for. So, Tony, what you said is exactly accurate, but our leadership, feckless, got nothing.
It's entirely feckless. And I mean, we can talk about windmills, we can talk about, racism and housing, and if there isn't any racism, we've got to construct some. But when it comes to a kid being persecuted on a campus without a voice, hey man, I'm here, we're here, talk to us, because you're not getting the story, from anything out there, and it's shameful. What you see in Columbia this morning, you're going to start to see in other places. Then where you had a chance to act and do something and you didn't, pin the tail on the donkey, man. That's all I could tell you.
And if we had real, true leadership in the state, I mean, Ned would already come out and say this kind of stuff is not happening at our schools. Otherwise, we are pulling the plug.
Well, and I was thinking about that this morning. I'm a huge Twilight Zone fan, the original Twilight Zone. Think about, picture, if you will, everything is reversed on a college campus. White kids are pressuring black kids and holding signs, and Palestinian kids, it's MAGA, Make America Great Again, and they're all healthy young white males, and they are creating the situation, making these other kids feel, and there's speakers coming on the canvas. This is just an example. You, me, Collie, Rocky, and whatever. They would be out there in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, stop this. That's how phony this is. It's so ridiculous.
Let me ask you, you nervous? I opened up with this. I don't know if people could hear it, but you think people are nervous now at the overwhelming aggressiveness, these Palestinian flags flying in these colleges, like they're flying them from their windows. Like it almost happened overnight. This Muslification of these universities, is this concerning for you, like in a general sense?
For me, yes, because there's no telling. I mean, we're watching an escalation here of really, I mean, this is not a bunch of kids. This is not Columbia University, anti-war Vietnam, 1968. They're getting marching orders from something. They're getting funded. They're getting food. They're getting direct. They can't possibly do this on their own. The question is what's behind it and to what degree. Yes, it is. I mean, the other thing, and, you and I had this discussion over the weekend, and then I had this discussion with somebody, another peer of mine, similar age, stage, and whatever, the case may be about, need help, need to get somebody interested in what I'm doing. I'm not as young as I used to be. And it's like, go deal with the kid. It's like, what's in that kid's head? What has he been programmed with? It's like, where do you find people that want to work and do things, and they just think the world is handed to them? And I think that when you multiply this exponentially, and this is the next generation, oh man, that's scary. That is scary.
Tony D'Angelo is with us. As always, you can send me a message. I'll make sure I forward it to Tony, or go right straight to Tony. Easy to find him, Fortress Fiduciary again. But either way, we'll get him the message. And if you got him, if he's got something that, or you have something you think might interest him or us, let me know. LeeElciRadio@gmail.com. We'll forward it to him. Of course, you can follow him on the X at Tony D'Angelo7. All right, you want to flip the script and go to the net zero integrity history of Ned?
This is something, and it's like a lot of things have been hitting me in the head. And one of the things, as far as, and we've been watching this in June, Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of the state of New York, is going to be before the House of Representatives Select Subcommittee talking about his decision to bring the COVID-positive patients into the nursing home. And he's going of his own volition, which is kind of interesting. And the only thing, I think it's pretty certain when he gets there, and he's going to start throwing everybody under the bus. He'll throw Trump under the bus. He'll throw the CDC. he'll throw McKinsey, the dubious national consulting firm, under the bus. He was touting their use. It's the old thing. I relied on professional counsel. How can you blame me? And everybody used McKinsey. Ned Lamont used McKinsey. Of course, he buried them in advanced CT and 4CT. We found that out on this show. We were all supposed to think that Ned was doing this on his own. So, part of me looks at Andrew, and I think it's kind of unfair that he's taken all the lumps where I believe Phil Murphy of New Jersey should be there and Ned should be there. And, I hope that light goes on in the subcommittee. But, when I started to see this whole thing with the trees in Greenwich, which I have not studied in fanatical detail like our colleague George Colley, I began to ruminate on the fact of, how much longer do we have to suffer, the lies, the poor excuses, and the misgivings, and, it's not what I really meant, or I didn't know, or, I'm not really, all the circular arguments you always have. And with him, it's never a case of, yes, I have done it, and he tells you before the fact, or if something happens, yes, I have done it, I apologize, I won't do it again. He's always making up a story to cover up his bad behavior. And this is going on time and time and time. I made a list. But it goes all the way back. I was reading this book called Preventable. If we go way, way, way back to the beginning, and actually 4 years ago, of the onset of COVID-19, it's written by a former McKinsey consultant, Andy Slavitt. Now, he's like an Obama guy, and he's got business ties to Anna Lamont. And he writes a kind of like a whole self-serving, I was right and they were all wrong thing about COVID-19. And I started to study something in this book, and it's on March 7th, he makes a reference that he puts together. He sort of made himself sort of the king of COVID management at this point. He puts together a memo for all the state governors. He sends the memo out, by email, and he talks about what's coming back. He's trying to point the finger at the Trump administration. Kate Brown, remember her from Oregon, she wrote and asked for help. Yeah, she needs a lot of help. And this caught me. Annie Lamont, the first lady in Connecticut, this is March 7, 2020, asked how to handle the people diagnosed with COVID-19 who had been at a basketball game in Starbucks. She asked me to get on the phone with the governor and talk about protocols. March 20, 2020, he signs Executive Order 7-8 shutting down the state. Think about what just happened. Annie's on the email chain. She's not elected. She's not appointed. She's not, she's there. She's quote unquote, the person in the hot seat. Ned's not. Where's Ned? Who knows? Now, Annie wants Slavitt to talk to Ned about COVID-19 protocols, right? Now, Annie's heavily invested and responsible in protocols with semaphores, so, she's kind of planting seeds in her garden, gives every indication. 13 days after this email chain, our state is shut down. And then she has the audacity to turn to the state and say, Ned and I had no involvement with the decision to enter into a contract with Semaphore and the terms of this contract with the state of Connecticut. This is all handled by the comptroller. And it's like, 13 days later, this goes on. She gets a no-bid testing contract for her investment, and her firm takes a greater position, increasing testing. And then you say to yourself, the light starts to go on as to who's really running this thing. Why are these people in government? Why are they there? Why the stories? Why the always after the fact? Oh, yeah, we didn't know about that. Starting with Semaphore, going to Digital Currency Group, going to Unite Us, going to Vestwell, going to the Horse Barn Hill Investment Fund, going to the $2 billion capitalized in the Cayman Islands where they can deal on all this stuff. And it's like it is always a scam after a scam after a scam. I change my story, and now we get to the thing of the trees. Yesterday, he's blaming the guy who cut the trees because for not getting a permit. Well, maybe they didn't get a permit because they didn't want anybody to know that they were cutting the trees. Anybody ever think about that? And here's another one. It's like, you think Ned really cares about trees? How often is he there? So it's like maybe that decision isn't coming from Ned. So it's just this whole thing of we've been on this show. You have blessed me to be on this show for 4 years. We've gone over scam, the ethics plan, right? Oh, Ned is clean as a whistle. We shredded that monkey. I mean, it's like everything with this guy is a scam, is a tale, is an after the fact. And we have a Republican Party. And I mean, I realize they're small in number, but it's like, who's bringing the fight for integrity? We need integrity in this state badly. We're not getting it. It's like it doesn't matter anymore. I don't know where to go with this thing any more than just like, this is really, this is absolutely ridiculous. This arrogance of I could do what I want and just keep doing it is, I mean, and we put up with it. And, Ned has a high rating. Well, sure, Ned has a high rating. He's using tax money to buy the media to tell everybody that he has a high rating. I'm out of words.
Well, I mean, I think
I'm out of words.
You said plenty. I think people understand exactly where you're coming from. And, Tony, the state is so upside down and backwards that the guy is probably going to run again, and he's probably going to win handily again. And you're going to get, I know it's going to be 2 years down the road, but you're going to get 4 more years of this. I can see that coming.
Well, and it's now you look at him and you say, can I believe one thing you're saying? How do I even know? If you walked across the street into the diner and said, I'm going to order bacon and eggs, how can I believe you? Every single thing for years and years and years, culminating in these trees is a scam. It's like, tell me it isn't. I mean, it's like I'm beside myself, right. And it's nuts.
All right, you want to try to get through the third segment
real
today?
Quick? We've been looking at this thing with the transit-oriented development, and it's, on and on and on. Let's just be clear about this. If there is a need for housing in this state, which really I have my doubts, I think it's just people coming in who are going to be housed. How they're getting there, I don't know. Much longer story about that perhaps we can share next week. And the thing is, I've been going through this on 30 with Tony. If we need housing, there's no secret whatsoever that owned properties and communities where people own their property are much better and much safer and much more well-governed than rentals. But there is this pig-headed desire to get these multi-unit developers from out of state and just put up, effectively we're having, the new millennium version of the housing projects of the 1940s and 1950s. Hello, Cabrini Green, that kind of thing. And it's just kind of where you realize how phony this thing is, Lee Elci. If people need housing, why not give them ownership in housing? There is a co-op development in New York, very modest income, Co-op City, been there for 60 years, self-governed, self-managed, not without its problems, but people own their apartments, and there's a 7-year waiting list to get in with a 2-bedroom. We covered that on 30 with Tony. And it's like, if that's the need for housing that we have, why aren't we doing that? Because the whole thing is they don't want people to have ownership. They don't want them to break the chains of government. So their answer is more government. And anybody I read, anybody talking about this, no one's talking ownership. No one's talking empowerment. It's all like government is the solution. Democrat, Republican, Martian, German. It's like I don't know what to tell you. If you're not going to wake up from what you're seeing, I'm doing my best, but don't come to me. It's like, hey, what happened?
Tony D, well done again, as always. So, Tony D'Angelo on the Twitter, Tony D'Angelo7 on Twitter. By the way, what's Thursday?
Business will make you sick in Connecticut. We're going to look at that whole wage thing, and the whole thing with the sick days. And there's a big piece about that really no one's covered. And, you and I talked about it over the weekend, and it's... It amazes me. It absolutely amazes me that lobbyists come and they throw this stuff out there and they say, "Oh, we're saving the masses," but they, it's these are the kind of people that think that milk originates in bottles. It's so stupid.
All right, brother. Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, pal.
All right, man. Tony D. Always, it's just great to have him on every Tuesday, and I thank him very much. We'll come back. Bruce Flax here in the studio next. Hang on.